don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things, episode 143, sponsored by our friends at Manscaped. We're doing our quick intro with good old Manscaped, as well as our Patreon, before we let our guest on. So, without further ado, Cinderin, like I said, the episode is, in fact, sponsored by our friends at Manscaped. Splish, splash, I was taking a bath. Look at your face. And I noticed I have beautiful balls. I'm sure our guest is gonna be really happy to know that he's not on yet because he's waiting for this intro to come up. Our friends at Manscaped, the global leaders in below-the-waist hygiene, are turning men's shower dreams into their favorite routine with the all-new Ultra Premium Collection. This all-in-one hygiene, skin, and hair bundle is designed to upgrade the everyday man's shower routine from head to toe. Your skin, hair, and balls deserve this. Save big by going to manscaped.com, and if you want 20% off and free shipping, insert the code WeSayThings. And you can see right now I'm holding a bunch of the beautiful products. Let's see, we got body wash, we got body spray, we have deodorant, they have chaps, they have everything now. Literally everything you would ever need for cleanliness, not just
you get
your balls.
Manscaped chocolate?
I don't think they've made anything edible yet. Do not eat your products.
That might be an avenue to explore. I would definitely... Manscaped, if you ever made chocolate, just, hit me up.
Great suggestion, Cinder. And as always, that's why you're the co-host of this show. And without further ado, let's give thanks to our beautiful patrons in the In Bruges tier. I'll let you take the first half, Cinderin.
Absolutely. First off, we've got... Shannon, how many weeks are we going to do this? Purchasing the In Bruges tier and hope you will promote my Steam game 4Play Chess, available to wishlist now. I have no shame. Could not change my name last week because of COVID, but since I'm not Artifact, I survived.
Too soon.
Vovalicious, stop the war in Ukraine. This is madness. Please donate to the Ukrainian army. Roundy 3. My name is not Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot Batman. It's ... Games for Falling Asleep thinks Dota could have billions of players if it were aggressively marketed. Wow, that's an increase. It was millions last time.
That's right.
That is insane. Disco Farm D, Vincent Darksea, Hakuna Matata, Commander Donut, Chakar Still an Asshole, Milan Miami, The Mega Pope. Nice to meet you, Shannon, Prince of Adult Diapers, Scott and TI in New Zealand.
Thank you. Also, thank you to Zan Xavier, Nate Thicko01, Hamscroats, Bacon, Shark TM, Uniquely Marinated Capricorn Testes. Okay, then. Dop, Nothing to See Here, Underscore Man, Eve Remort, No Soup for You. I think we did that last time, and I still butchered it, I'm sure. Ben Broomhead fucking hates when he swaps his neutral item, and it sends the wrong one back. Suns fan is valid. Thank you.
You are valid, Shannon.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You have the wrong capitalization of my name, just like Valve put in the for my voice line for TI-10. Pitch Black, with an aftertaste. The guy hijacking the shoutouts for his game is a DH. I hope that's not a... I don't know what that even stands for, honestly. Drunk Horse.
The first thing I was thinking was Dickhole.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's perfect.
Shout out to our sponsors at Manscaped.
That's right. It's perfect. Anonymous, and last but not least, T-Rex lived 66 million years ago. Stegosaurus lived 155 million years ago. The gap between them is a 16 million year greater than between Rex and present-day Niebling. I actually did know that one. And it's crazy to think about that that T-Rex and Stegosaurus didn't live together. Isn't that insane? And they all had feathers, Cinderin. Even crazier.
But now we do have T-Rex, but it's Slax's son. So
that's true.
The second iteration is...
He might grow up to be just as big. We'll see what he feeds him.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our intro. Let's get on to our special guest. Okay, and welcome everybody to... episode 143 of We Say Things. We have a very special guest today. He is a 4-time major winner, legendary captain, Tal, a.k.a. Fly. Greetings, friend. How are you doing? Hello? Okay, he has frozen. Okay, well... Am
I good?
You are good now. I thought you were just giving me the stare down, but it was just a laugh.
I am in the Caribbeans right now, so I mean the internet should hold. But
Okay.
anyways, it's good to be here.
That's a great intro.
Yeah, that's terrific. We're gonna have a lot of those probably this episode. Okay, so if you guys haven't joined us for a guest episode before, it's kind of a different format, but to kind of break the ice, so to speak, Fly, I'm gonna give you a rapid fire initiation. So I'm gonna give you two choices, but quickly. You got to just answer. All right, answer real quick. First thing, okay? Sit-ups or push-ups?
Push-ups.
Dota 2 or Heroes of Newerth?
Dota 2.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Okay, you got one correct. The last one.
Oh,
Good job.
Which is the only one Shannon cares about, so you're fine.
That's true.
Okay.
That's
the one that's there every time.
Okay, so typically the guest episodes, we kind of just talk about the guest, their life, and all that good stuff. And obviously, very excited to have you on the show. So, without further ado, tell us about your early life. Let's say, little baby Fly, little kid Fly. Did you go to school? Did you have any work stuff before gaming? All that stuff.
So yeah, I went to school. I grew up mostly in Israel. I was born in Canada, but I moved to Israel when I was about 3. So I lived most of my life there, just regular school stuff. I did have a short stint in McDonald's for literally one day, trying to do like actual work, and then I quit. So besides that, I don't think I did anything. I delivered newspapers for like 2 weeks.
That's still more work than any pro player I've heard of, including Cinderin.
So
I worked for a week, Shannon.
Oh, okay.
I was actually even more than that. But this isn't about me, so go on.
Nobody cares. Go ahead, Fly.
Yeah, I just want to correct you when you're wrong.
But yeah, mostly growing up, my dad has kind of come from sports. He used to train like judo champions, jiu-jitsu champions, UFC champions. So I did have that in my life where I did mostly judo growing up. I competed as well as like a young kid, and he also had me doing chess. So I did all that good stuff up until maybe I was like 12, 13, and then I started playing games more. So I had that in my life as well growing up. So I think that's where a bit of my competitive side comes out.
That seems like you actually have.
How good were you at
balance?
chess?
How good was I? Probably not that good because I was still pretty young. I did win one competition as 11-year-old. Yeah.
Are you looking to challenge him at chess or something, Cinder?
No, but it's interesting because there's like, I feel like a lot of the time when people talk about when I was young, I played chess. A lot of the times, like if it's something they grew up with and like you're competitive, I was just curious. Like maybe it was something that you could have pursued, but then you discovered gaming. Like maybe you were like really good, like national level or something. So I was just curious. But
I don't think I was. I think if I would pursue something else, it would be more in the fighting world, like MMA type of thing, jiu-jitsu. I think I was naturally talented for that.
Oh. Okay, so into the video game realm, what is the first video game memory you have?
Oh, first video game memory. I think it started with like those like Mario games. Pretty simple.
Oh, good choice.
But the first game I really got into, so there was Diablo 2, which I didn't actually have. I had it in my friend's house, and I used to come over and we would play all the time. So that was awesome. And then there was Neverwinter Nights, Neverwinter Nights. I think that's the name. That was one of my first like real games that I got into. So awesome game, by the way.
Did you play Zelda?
Oh, here we go.
Not really.
Oh yeah, that's my boy.
You're so lucky. You're so lucky, Shannon.
Why?
No, it's so really quickly, we have this thing on this podcast where Shannon is outraged every time I haven't watched a movie. And recently I got outraged at him for not having played Zelda, even though he had an SNES and like all sorts of consoles growing up. I was like, that is, and you have played Mario. So I was like, okay, you must have played Zelda, so I can own Shannon with that. But apparently not. So
that's
unfortunate.
Right. Get wrecked.
Apologies. I did try Breath of the Wild, and the thing is I didn't really get into it. I know people said how good it was. I hope you're not gonna like chug the water out or something, but
no. Not yet.
Yeah,
with time.
He's enraged right now.
I'm furious.
Okay, so these early games, and then I want to talk about the first. Well, I guess you should tell me if it was your first actual competitive game, but Heroes of Newerth. Obviously, we're going to talk about this. How did that get started?
Yeah. So before he was in Newerth, I played WoW.
Okay.
And I mean, you can say you were competitive at WoW. I was like high ranked in arenas and whatnot. And the guy I played with, he's from Sweden, and he told me about this game coming out called Han, and he's like, "Hey, yo, you should try this out." I didn't play Dota 1.
Hmm.
I did play Warcraft 3, but I didn't actually play Dota 1. I think I loaded the map once, like the Dota All Stars, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, and I quit,
Yep.
something like that.
That's like 90%
Um,
of the people for sure.
yeah. So that happened, and then my friend through WoW, he told me about it, and then I tried it out with him. First hero I played was the equivalent of Luna. I think it was called Moon Queen. Yeah,
Queen. Yeah. Nice.
yeah, Moon Queen.
Wait, what
So
was different with her versus Dota? There was something that was like quality of life. There's always every hero had a quality of life thing versus Dota.
And then he doesn't know he didn't play the game. Why are you asking him?
He didn't play versus Dota 2 even.
Oh, well, you said
yeah,
Dota.
I mean, same thing.
I don't even remember. She was almost an exact copy. Just there was probably something different.
Yeah, something slight. Okay, go ahead.
But that's how
Had
Han
better
started,
turn rate.
basically.
True. That goes without saying.
That's true. I didn't like her model though. She was like a bug.
Yeah,
Kinda like a bug
it
looking.
wasn't the best. But Slardar was a bug, and he looked awesome. Way better.
Pestilence. He was cool.
Yeah, exactly.
He had a cool model. I like the stun where it's like brings it out of his carapace. That was cool.
I mean, every animation in that game was better than Dota. Not to go off on a rant again, but makes me so angry that
Here we go
everything was
again.
better with that in regards to animation. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that just started. I started playing Han. I fell in love with the game. I played it nonstop. I would skip school to play it, like I just did the normal gamer stuff these days. And I didn't really have any ambition to be competitive or something because it didn't really exist. Like you would have tournaments for mouse pads or like $1,000. So it's not like something you really strive to do. But I just really had fun playing the game. And I met some people along the way in like my pubs, namely a guy called Nova back then, Yasha, and also Notel. I met through like pubs and approached him basically like, hey, you want to like start playing with each other, like just for fun, type of thing. And it kind of snowballed from there where a guy that used to work in Fnatic as a general manager, he scouted us like I don't know. He kind of did like a side project because back then Fnatic actually had a Heroes of Newerth team with Trixie and some other like Finnish people. So he kind of scouted us. His name is Danny or Dangel Ramos, awesome guy. And we were like his side project, basically. Like he would help us get into like these amateur tournaments, and eventually he brought us into Fnatic, like the three of us, myself, Notel, and Nova. So that's kind of how it started.
And then who did you merge with from Fnatic at that point? Trixie and?
Trixie and
Dude, I've been trying to think of this fifth
Fresh
name. Fresh Pro.
Oh, Fresh. That's right.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, it was on the tip of my tongue. Now, the person that you said brought you in, I don't know. You said his real name, but is that Street? Is that the same person?
Yeah. That's
okay. Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, so they bring you onto Fnatic. You start playing competitive Han. What was that experience like? Not having played really any competitive video games. I mean, wow, we can both agree was not really competitive on the same level, at least.
I do like to say I was rank 1 and stuff, but then every time I get shut down, like you just played one. It's fine.
It's not easy to be rank 1 in any game.
True.
Okay.
Thank you.
It just isn't. I'm impressed. I think it's a challenging game. So PvP, as long as it's against other players and people are competitive, it will always be hard to be the best, right? So
that's true. So yeah, that was the first real experience I remember was flying to DreamHack. And back then it was like we had to bring laptops. Like Fnatic got us like some laptops where we would set up somewhere just to play the qualifiers from DreamHack itself. And it was really amazing to go there for the first time because I've never really been in a place where there's a lot of like gamers, like where I come from, in Israel. It wasn't like a very popular thing to do, like to, I don't know, have LANs or anything like that. We didn't have that growing up. It was just me, and I had maybe a couple of friends who played games, but nothing serious. So suddenly going to DreamHack and seeing like thousands of kids playing games, it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun that tournament. We ended up winning the whole thing as well. So I was I was like, yeah, this is so much fun. Even though it wasn't like financially really stable at the time, I was only like 16 or 17, so it was really cool.
So I
Do you
didn't. You
remember which year
actually.
this was?
So this must have been
2009 maybe.
yeah, something like that.
Okay.
So you won your first LAN you ever attended.
Yeah, we won almost every tournament we played in back then in Han.
I remember. You guys were
Damn.
a dynasty.
Rank 1, I guess.
Yes, Kyle might have something to say. Although during our lifetime before we moved to Dota, Kyle didn't really beat us. I think only once ever. If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he picked up the scraps once you guys switched to Dota. It's a known thing for sure. Okay.
So I hope he watches this and says something.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the rest of your roster because they slightly changed. I think Nova played with you the whole time, right? Trixie, I think, moved around a bit. You started as position 1, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going off of memory alone here, like very briefly.
I did
right?
very, very much in the beginning. I played position 1, and then I kind of moved into 4 and eventually 5 in Dota. But we had Kai come in, or Hani, and we had Era come in at some point. So yeah, that was mostly the roster.
Okay. So again, he's kind of downplaying it. Well, I guess you did say you won every LAN you attended. They were a literal, like, the definition of a dynasty. They were like the Na'Vi in the early stages of Dota 2 of Han, for sure. You guys were winning like every tournament.
Yeah.
And then Kyle took over.
There wasn't that much competition, and also like the whole region thing. That was like a big thing back then because a lot of the online tournaments, like, we would cross over between NA, or
True.
we even actually played against an SCA team once, which was absolutely wild. Ninja Boogie, by the way.
Oh, funny.
Yeah,
no idea.
it's pretty crazy. Like, a lot of pro players are, they came from Han, and I'm sure a lot of those came from Dota 1. But yeah, for the most part, it was just myself, Nova, and No-Tail were like the core, and then with Hani and Trixie going an era basically.
And what would you say, and this is always my favorite part of any guest episode for somebody that played Han, what do you miss from Han? Give me your full fucking list. Anything and everything off the top of your head.
Okay. First thing is definitely, I think the original designs they had in Han were really cool, like the hero designs. Like, Puppet Master is probably one of the coolest heroes ever.
Yeah.
Malakin was a lot of fun. I really like Bombardier, which I guess we have a new techies, which kind of reminds me of him.
True.
So I really like some of those. I really liked how Crystal Maiden played in Han, like Glacius. It felt super smooth, and Crystal Maiden is like, she's the slowest thing in the existence of the world. So that was a lot of fun. I miss also being able to 1v5 every game from mid lane. Like, back then, everybody was kind of bad, and I started out as a mid player back then, so it was just really easy to 1v5 games in pubs for some reason.
Man,
so
I played a Han game last year, the first one in years, and I picked the Pudge equivalent, Devourer, and I played Pudge more than any other hero on my Dota 2 account, 45% win rate. I'm a terrible fucking Pudge. I dominated so hard, the other guy thought I was smurfing. Devourer feels so good. Like, you hook, and then you can still move while you're hooked. It's amazing, the quality of life stuff in that game. That I still feel like they could bring. Like, is there anything that is like even like the turn rates or something like that you think would translate fine to Dota 2? Just people are a little bit too afraid, because at the beginning everybody was like on this slippery slope mentality, and now we're starting to get them. Just they're trickling in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the slow pace of Dota is kind of what makes it into the game it is, because if you didn't get punished for those missteps, which was basically Han, you don't get punished because everything's so fast. Your turn rate's super fast, your spells are super fast. Dota would just be a completely different game. So I don't think they should mess with anything like the interaction between speeds and turns.
He also played Zelda, by the way, Shannon.
Technically.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think what they can bring from Han, but it's been so long that I don't know. I don't really know what was actually better in Han, if anything, besides some of the cool hero designs they had. Definitely don't bring over the skin stuff. That was insane. They, like, the skins in Han. Like, I literally, like, I looked this up. I don't know, maybe a year ago. I went online to the website and, like, I checked out Heroes of the Newerth, and I would see different skins for heroes. It's like it's a different hero every time. It would be like
Yeah.
a Crystal Maiden, and then she would be completely fire. Then she would turn into a lizard in the next skin. Like absolutely insane. It made no sense.
I agree for the most part. Now there was one, the Lifestealer equivalent Predator had a bunny outfit, which was god tier. Do you remember that one?
Ugh.
Instead of like talons, he'd be holding carrots. Dude, that was my favorite skin.
I do actually. I do.
That was good shit.
Those skins were wild, man. The game, like when Ice Frog left, it was all downhill from there.
That is true. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if it's like nostalgia, but that first year when Ice Frog was working on it, after I switched from Dota 1, that's still like the most fun I've ever had playing a game, personally.
It was a lot of fun. I love.
Shannon was a pro at CS, so that actually says a lot.
That's true. That's true. Like, I'm not saying Dota 2 is not a better game. It is a better game. It's just taken time. But I still have not had as much fun playing versus the first year in Han. But yeah, when Ice Frog left, it was just garbage. Okay, so let's talk about that. Oh, go ahead.
Quickly, Shannon. Quickly. Yes. Okay, so I'm like the opposite of Shannon when it comes to Han because I never played the game. I think I've watched Han twice, and I think both times I watched it was a DreamHack, and it was Eurofinals, I believe. When I was there, I think one of the years, or even both of the years I was there, actually playing Dota 1 and Dota 2 the second time or whatever. And I think in one of them, you played a finals against a team that had, I think it was, what was he called? That was it Slicks? An Australian player?
Yeah.
Which team did he play for? Was that Stay Green?
No, it was a different name.
Oh, it was something with F, I think.
Freedom? No.
No.
It was something with F actually, but I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember. But that checks out that was a finals, right? Because I feel like I watched 2 finals. Yeah. So you played against them. And I think both times you won. And that was, I think the first and the second roster were slightly different. So I think the second iteration was probably the final one. Because I think that might have been like 2011 or 2012. That was probably the final year you played, maybe.
Yeah, it probably was.
So so Shannon was like, what are the things you miss or that you would want to transfer to Dota? For me, watching that game, it's like every game, right? When you don't play it, it looks a little bit like, to me, when I watched the game, I felt like animations and everything was all over the place and like really cluttered. And I find Dota to be more identifiable. Do you agree with that? Or is that just because I didn't play the game? Did you feel like the design of like spell casting and everything was clean, or was it a little bit chaotic?
I think it was pretty clean in the beginning. I think it got worse and worse over time when they continued to add heroes nonstop without like pausing and being like, how does this hero change everything in the entire game? Because that's what happens, right? A new hero can change everything. So in the beginning,
so what's something you don't miss then?
I don't miss?
Yeah, what's something in Han that you thought was really bad, but while you were still playing that you didn't like, and did Dota do a better job?
Something I didn't miss. I think basically the way the draft worked was kind of questionable, especially when they decided to turn it into a blind, I think it was called blind captain's draft or something like that, where you would
was
literally...
that the official tournament mode?
Yeah, at some point it was. So they kept playing around with the way drafting worked, and at some point you basically blind ban things so the enemy couldn't see, something like that. And that was one of the breaking moments. So I think they played around with the drafting too much in a very crazy way.
I don't even remember that myself.
Yeah, that's kind of when we stopped playing.
All right, final Han thing. I just have to say, I know you're not a big taunter in Dota. You're very low key, but the taunts in Han were fucking god tier in comparison. Am I objectively right on?
Yeah, the one with the gunshots.
Samuel Jackson.
That was so hype. Yeah. So there were some good ones when you kill them, and then the sound comes on. It's like your entire screen is just covered by whatever the sentence is. Oh man, there was the unicorn one. That was so cringe.
The rainbow one, Flamboyant Pack was so good. Oh, I loved it.
Rainbow Warrior or something. Oh my goodness.
Unicorn, I feel like
Rampage, Unicorn Stampede. I don't know.
If Tal and I, we did so whenever there's like a new treasure or whatever in Dota and we do our podcast, we will like, at least most of the time, we will like rate the sets with how good we think they are. And Shannon and I very much disagree. Tal, I feel like you and I will be more like the same wavelength with what's a good cosmetic. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I have a feeling that
Rainbows
Duke
and
does.
unicorns don't sound very Han or Dota to me.
No, the sound was just satisfying. I remember that much.
yeah.
Especially the gunshot one. But yeah, I'm not a fan of like changing skins like too much, where you don't really recognize the hero anymore. I think there's like a Viper skin that looks like Dragonite ulti. Pretty sure
Is that the set
there's something
that's
like that.
our set? Is that the one that looks like a turtle, or is that a different one?
I don't remember.
There's one that's a turtle that it was my idea, and it's our set. So don't talk shit about it, Fly. Okay.
I love that set. By the way, actually, there was a cool set. I think was it for Underlord that you guys made?
Oh yeah, the Grim Reaper. Yeah, with the cloak.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
Yeah, that one's
that's
really
a cool
cool.
one.
Thank you.
So
You
guys
okay.
should get it.
So your transition to Dota 2, because you guys didn't immediately switch. It wasn't like that slow of a switch over, but it wasn't like immediate, because immediate was like 2011. I remember being at NASL. That was one of your final tournaments, probably. You played against
It was
probably
the
Kyle's
final
team.
Yeah, I think that's the only time they beat us. I think.
Oh wait,
You
was that team
lost?
called
Really?
Fringe? Was it called Fringe?
That does not sound
Australian
familiar.
team.
Or was that the name of a player? Damn it! I just thought I had it. I was like, I have it at the tip of my tongue. That was not.
You'll
it
get
either.
there one day, old man. So NASL
Don't worry,
finals,
the comments will know. The comments always know.
right?
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, I was there. I met you guys for the first time. I met Day 9. I was actually really nervous to meet Day 9, and I made myself look like a fucking idiot. I called myself
too.
Jew 9 because everybody says I look like a Jewish version of Day 9, and he did not react well to that. And I still have a
That's probably
photo.
not what I would go with.
I still have a photo of his face, and it's on my Facebook if you want to check it out. It's not great. So you guys apparently lose that turn, which I don't remember that part.
We got third or fourth, I think.
Really?
Yeah, that tournament was not good for us, for sure.
And then did you guys switch to Dota like right after that, or?
It was shortly after. I think that was the final LAN we played. I'm pretty sure. And then I think Trixie had already left for Dota at that time.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
initially it was us like switching. All of us, we started playing minus Trixie. I think we had Era come in or something. And then it took me a while to get used to that game for sure. Like coming from Han, it took me like at least 100 games just to actually start enjoying the game. At first, I didn't like playing it at all.
Yeah.
And this was after TI2. That's when we made the switch. So at the start of the year, it was a bit hard to get into, but over time I started to appreciate the game more and more. And eventually we brought in Trixie into the team, and then Nova ended up leaving, and it was basically that's the first like real iteration of Fnatic in Dota.
I remember scrimming against you guys shortly after you came into Dota, and I remember in the start, like, just to putting it blatantly, and that makes total sense. Like in the start, you guys were just not good, but you were just grinding it out. You were playing a lot. You put in the effort, and you improved so quickly. Because I remember the first scrims we had were just an absolute cakewalk, and we were like, man, these guys are so bad. And then I think we played you like a month later, and you had just improved to the level of other teams. What do you think made you guys improve so quickly? Because there's a lot of similarities between Dota and Han, but like not everybody who transferred between these games found that immediate success, right? So was it like the team chemistry? Was it your work ethic? What was it that worked so well?
I think back then, since it was like the whole concept of competition, esports was still pretty young. We didn't do anything crazy besides just play, enjoy the game, and scrim regularly. We didn't do anything crazy other than that. So I think it's a combination of like this specific talent that is required to be good at Dota. It definitely is very much the same in Heroes of Newerth. So some people it might not translate as much, but for us it thankfully did for pretty much all the players on our team. So I think it was just natural.
Were you surprised at all by the reaction of the community to people that switched from Han? Because it felt like at first they didn't want people.
Han
like
trash.
They were very angry with people for some reasons. Like you wouldn't want players playing Dota 2, which is just a stupid concept. And then the term Han trash, which I think was an insult before and has now become almost the opposite. It's because everybody that's Han trash is very good at the game, obviously.
Yeah.
Were you surprised at all by the reaction?
A bit at the start, because I didn't really understand like how tight knit this Dota community really is, and everybody's very passionate about this game, which is a good thing.
It's a nice way to
in
say
the end.
elitist. That's a good way. I like.
Sometimes, yeah. I do think people could have been a little more welcoming, and it's something we should strive for as a community. Like, every time we have a chance to. So it was a bit strange at first, and like whenever you look up on either Reddit or on other forums, there was a lot of negative comments, and we were still pretty young back then, so didn't really take it to heart. But you kind of get thick skin growing out of something like that. So yeah, it's okay. We've moved on. Like you said, now being Huntress is actually a good thing.
Yep.
Do you think it worked as like a motivating factor for you guys? Like you come in, you used to be the big guns in another game, you switch games, you have to grind your way back up. People are kind of almost cheering against you because of the game you're from. Was that like extra fuel for you guys to just really be motivated and prove everyone wrong? Or do you not think that really mattered and you were just playing?
I think it was just a humbling experience just to sort of see the scope of competition that's out there. Like coming from Han, we were very dominant, and at some point you kind of get complacent, right? Like you're just winning everything. We were probably going to continue winning. There was a high chance. So it was just a humbling experience to change. So I don't think there was anything too crazy about hunger at the start. It was just like, yeah, it looks like we have our work cut out for us, and just if we enjoy it, we got to do it.
So how was your time with Fnatic in Dota 2? Like, what kind of results did you guys have?
Not the best results. We had mixed results. Occasionally, we were able to make it pretty far in tournaments, but we were very inconsistent. I think that was a time period where I myself was not 100% committed, because I was still kind of speculating whether I would continue somewhere else in my life. It wasn't like there was that much money available outside of TI back then, so I wasn't 100% committed, and yeah, just didn't give it our best. So we had mixed results. We did make it to every TI though, so that was one of the big things. We were still good enough for that. I think we made the first TI. I think we made 7th to 8th place, which was TI 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And the next TI was worse for us. That was like, I can't remember. That was either 9 to 12 or even worse. That TI was rough. TI 4 was hardcore. The whole group stage thing was absolutely massacre. I remember that was stressful times.
Every team played each other twice, or was it best of ones? I can't remember exactly what it was.
I think it was BO1s, and yeah, some like bottoms X get eliminated. It was grim. Everybody was walking around being super stressed, except obviously the top dogs at the time. That was a rough TI.
Was it TI3 or TI4 where you had the whole health situation with Era? Was that like weighing down on you? Was that the TI4?
That was TI4.
That was TI4.
Yeah,
so that probably had an influence as well on your results, right? That must have been a mess.
Yeah, so we didn't really know what was happening with Era at the time, and that's why we brought in Excalibur, Steve, and we played with him for basically, I think, either a month or two leading up to TI, and that it so happened that Era could actually participate in TI, and it was a bit of like a confusing time for all of us. We weren't really sure what was happening, so we ended up playing with Era, even though we practiced with mostly Excalibur, and then Excalibur was there as a coach, which was kind of funny. But yeah, that didn't really help because we didn't really have time to practice together. But we were just not good enough for sure back then, regardless.
So I don't know if I'm skipping here. I'm trying to remember the year. I think this is right. So after TI4, that's when Team Secret happened, right?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure. So original Team Secret was you, No Tail, Puppy, S4, and Kuro, right?
Yes,
that's
when it happened.
And you played 3. That was a stacked roster. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, so one thing, back then, especially during the TI3 times, TI4, is that people talked a lot more amongst each other. Like players were closer. We would actually hang out. We didn't have dedicated practice rooms for them, during those times. So we just got to know other people better. Like I remember Notil got pretty close with Kuro specifically during that time, and that's when that whole situation happened where he talked to Kuro and they had this idea of kind of creating a new roster of people who aren't necessarily the best in terms of just individual mechanical skill. It was more of a, these guys are really smart about the game, so let's kind of make a team based off of that idea. So that's how Team Secret came to be. Kuro wanted to play with Puppy, Notil wanted to play with myself, and then don't remember who brought in S4, but he also kind of joined the fray at some point. So that's how that team was born. Nowadays, it's a little more difficult. People kind of stick to themselves, obviously, but we'll get to that later, I'm sure. It was different because I just felt like I wanted to try something else at the time, and being in an opportunity to play with basically Dota legends back then, right? You know, like Kuro and Puppy, they've been playing this game forever, and he's an experienced captain. So I was like, you know, it's not my place to captain this team. Like, I'm just gonna try and do something else, focus just on myself, and see how that goes. That's why I played the 3 back then. It was fun in the start because I felt like I got a new scope into how people were doing things. Like, you know, I got a new scope into seeing how Kuro thinks about Dota, how Puppy thinks, S4, like the kind of calls they make, the kind of talks we had about drafting or gameplay, and it definitely opened my eyes a bit more to what I wasn't really doing, and this kind of came from, you know, lack of experience. So I learned a lot. I wasn't good enough as an offlaner back then, for sure, which is it's fine. I recognize that. But I do think we were very close to winning a couple tournaments when we did play. I think we finished second in like some Star Ladder, maybe third at some BTS. So we definitely had potential until they decided to make a
Didn't you
switch.
crush an ESL?
ESL we actually didn't do that well. That was the first
Wait.
tournament we played. We lost to Vici. I was playing offlane Razor. I remember that game actually. I played offlane Razor and I got tri-laned, and that was like my first time playing against like a Chinese tri-lane, and I was like as an offlaner, and that was brutal, man.
Hmm.
Double stun with some. I think Black was playing back then. Oh boy, that was a rough game.
So, how long were you on Secret? It felt like that first year. It was maybe like that first half of the year you were on Secret. Is that about right?
Not even half. It was less. I think it was 2 or 3 months, maybe. It wasn't that long. Maybe 3 months.
Did you? They ended up going for Arteezy, if I'm remembering right, and Zai.
And Zai. Yeah.
Zai, yeah.
So you got kicked, and
yes.
Who else got kicked?
Notil.
I thought Notil was on the team for a little bit longer after you. Okay, so I'm remembering.
He was for a bit longer. Then they brought in Misery for him, and then they brought in something like that. Then went to Arteezy Zai. Something like that happened, and then Notil ended up joining Cloud9.
That's right. Okay, and you joined Complexity, I think, right?
Yes, I tried like this little stack in Europe with Weeha for like a very short stint, maybe like a month. That didn't really work out, and then I joined Complexity later. Yeah.
Okay, so that same year was Complexity, and you guys went to TI. I think it was 9th to 12th. I looked this up the other day.
Yeah.
It felt like you guys had a good run. I was actually surprised that it was 9 to 12. Why did it feel like you guys had a good run? Am I crazy? Or is that a different year, maybe?
Because we made it to upper bracket and through the group stage, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, we actually did. And then we ended up playing EG the first round. And I think one of the games we were kind of in an advantage, like a small advantage. And then there was something happened and we had to pause the game for like an hour and step out of the booths and like sit out. And that was very stressful. I'm sure Kyle remembers this because he was like, really stressed out. And then we came back into the booths and lost miserably. I don't think we would have ever really won that series regardless, but I think that also ruined the momentum of like an underdog team kind of having like a small advantage.
Right.
It means a lot when you actually play on stage. Like you can all feel it, like, oh, we actually have a chance of beating this top team. And when that went away, it was basically all our fire was kind of extinguished and we had no chance.
Were you captaining or was it Kyle at that time?
It was Kyle. Kyle was captaining. I was essentially co-captaining in terms of the drafting stage. I was helping a lot, but he was the one that was captaining the team.
Okay, and that, if I'm remembering right, had Moon Meander, Z Freak,
Yes,
and I don't remember the fifth was it
Zizzy.
Zizzy? That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Zizzy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah,
funny when you go down memory lane like this, how many players had like one or two big moments and it just totally vanished. Like, there are so many players that have played TI once, right? It's kind of funny that there's like this like small subset of people that just keep coming back year after year after year, qualify, just make a name for themselves, keep finding new teams. But there's just as many stories that like end with one attempt, right? It's kind of sad when you think about it that they don't get another chance. I mean, obviously, a lot of it is also down to themselves, right? If they have that fire. But what happened with Zizzy, for example? Did he just like lose interest after TI, or did he never find another team?
Truth is, I don't actually know. He was a nice guy and everything. I don't think he was at the top level, like compared to the other players. So I think once it didn't work out for him with complexity, I just don't think anyone else approached him, and he probably didn't push for himself very hard.
Mhm.
I didn't really keep in contact with him, but
Okay.
yeah, he's definitely someone that was just there for that one shot and disappeared for sure.
Okay, so after TI5, OG, well, Monkey Business into OG. Are you aware that you were almost Digital Chaos, Fly?
I am actually. That almost happened.
You guys dodged a fucking bullet. I'll just tell you that right.
I remember. That was, I think, I was in talks with Bulba back then, if I'm not mistaken. That he was like trying to get this new team together, and he asked me to join or something. Yeah, I vaguely remember.
Yeah, we essentially had the choice between Curtis, Bulba, and the other people, Yawar, or No-Tail, you, and some guy named Miracle, which nobody knew of at the time. So you guys create Monkey Business. I feel like that almost started the trend of like getting this very young blood mid player that just crushes. Like it feels like it's snowballing and every team is doing it now. I mean, if you can think of it like that, starting some sort of a trend at least. Talk about the early OG days.
Yeah, so how that team kind of came to be is after TI. No-Tail and I just we were still friends back then. We talked, and we're like, we want to make a new team together with, like, he knew about this Miracle guy, so he found Miracle Summer, and he's like, I really want to bring this guy in. And then I played with Moonmander, and I thought he was really good. And I was like, I want to bring Moon in for this team. All right, we need one more player. Kind of scouted Crit. I don't even remember how
We go scout.
we got to Crit. But yeah, that team just was kind of born like that. Basically taking a shot with some new blood, and a mix of like different ideas, because No-Tail wanted to play carry, and he wanted to enable others. That was his idea, which I think was very similar to basically Fear back then. That's similar to how he played with Sumail, and they ended up winning. So that was the initial idea. Like No-Tail, he wanted to enable a mid player, and I just wanted like to captain a new team, like a new squad with him, and bring in some like different elements from the teams I've been on in terms of like play style and drafting and some of the map movements. So that's how that team came to be, and it was a very tough grind in the start. We played like a ton of different qualifiers. I think Moon actually came to live with me for a little bit in Israel back then, because for ping reasons. I think he played on like my my bad laptop. It was
Jeez.
pretty crazy. Like
Is
the things
that
he had
better
to
or
do.
worse than
I actually
playing
don't know.
from
Maybe
home?
it's worse. Yeah, I'm trying to remember because obviously it was a long time ago. But we played a bunch of qualifiers. Uh, we went to like a mini boot camp, for the Frankfurt major qualifiers. Or wait, was that actually for the tournament itself, or was it for the qualifier? Don't remember. Okay, for the tournament. And then like the Frankfurt major run happened, and that kind of set everything in place.
Yep, that was quite the run. I mean, this is where, because you are obviously a legend in Heroes of Newerth, but when you switched to Dota, it wasn't like you did poorly necessarily, but you didn't really establish yourself as like elite, I don't think, at least to many people's eyes. And 4 majors with OG. I mean, that if that's not solidifying yourself, I don't know what is. By the way, I take back what I said. It was Sumail was, like you said, TI5, so that was actually starting the trend in the Western scene to get like these young bloods. Okay, and Seb was coaching, right? That was a lot of people didn't have coaches. It wasn't like a standard thing at that point, if I remember correctly.
That was a bit later. The first time he was brought on was Manila Major.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the first time he was brought on. It kind of happened where we just thought about getting a potential coach just to try it out, and I just whenever I heard him talk about Dota, I thought he was very smart about the game, so I approached him, talked to him about it, and then basically brought him in for Manila Major. That was the first boot camp he had with us, and obviously the guy's a genius when it comes to Dota, so he definitely helped us win that tournament. He showed us like some new ideas, which was really cool.
So then the second iteration of OG, which you also won 2 majors. Well, I guess we can talk about TI real briefly with that lineup. Disappointing result. I don't remember what the result was. That was a 9-12.
9-12, yeah.
So talk about the disappointment of that after winning 2 of the 3 there was 3 majors, I think, every year, right?
Yes. We lost the second one. The second one was Shanghai, I believe, right? Yeah.
Oh, well, you dodged the bullet on that one at least. Yeah. Nobody remembers that.
Yeah. That was a mess. Yeah, I will say Manila Major is definitely one of the. Actually, both Frankfurt and Manila were some of the best memories I've had. Not just because of winning. Winning makes it obviously better, but those tournaments were really crazy. Like Manila Major having the dude from Game of Thrones opening the doors for us, walking out. That was insane. An absolutely filled arena. With like Filipino fans first time being there. That was amazing. That was so much fun, and I think that tournament we were like heavy favorites. Like I don't think we could lose to anyone that tournament. We were like really on the ball, And the Frankfurt one was that exact opposite. We were like basically down in the dumpster. We kept losing. We went straight to lower bracket, and then we made kind of a miraculous run, and then almost got trampled in the end when the entire like crowd just ran on stage and started jumping up and down. So those are like some old memories which are pretty cool. But yeah, leading up to TI, I honestly think, putting it in simple terms, we choked. We choked hard as a team. We were definitely way better than what we showed. And that can happen to any team, right? Like that does happen to teams. That happened to Secret at TI5, for example. That happened to them. They kind of choked. And that was like our first experience going into a tournament, like a TI, and being one of the teams to actually look out for. So I think the pressure got to us.
Do you think there's do you think there's a mentality that you learned or that you can talk about maybe peaking too early in the year? Because it is a long year, a lot of especially back then, there's a lot of tournaments, and you guys crushed, and we've seen a lot of teams crush during like the middle part of the year, and then when it gets to TI, it's like they're almost burnt out sometimes. Was that the case at all?
A bit, but that's because back then we didn't really understand as much as we do now in terms of how to properly train and what kind of support system you need around you. Because all of these things do matter in the end. Because what you're saying is 100% right, but nowadays we've progressed far enough that this is a bit less of a factor. It still is a factor, but not as much. Because so we win a tournament, we're all like super happy, and then the next major comes along and we don't try as hard, we lose, then we're like, okay, we're hyped up again. But nowadays, if you look at it, like you have these consistent matches every week that you have to prepare for. People are now way more organized in terms of how they do things, how they draft, how they talk about replays, how they everything around the team is way more structured. And I think that helps. And back then we had a bit of it, but not as much as we do now. So what you're saying is definitely accurate, especially back then.
Okay, so TI, disappointing result. You guys changed rosters a bit, again, going off of memory.
Yes.
S4 comes in, I think, and Jerax. Is that right?
Wait, so that's when
Miracle
S4,
leaves
Jerax,
and Crit leaves.
and
Or Moon.
Ana comes in.
Oh, wait. Was it 3 players changed?
Crit leaves for EG.
You guys kicked Moon that year, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And then, yeah, I guess it was
I
3
thought
players then, yeah.
Miracle left as well. So it was just you and Note.
Yeah, Miracle left.
So talk to me about, because we're going to get to the EG part as well, which is very similar. You guys have so much success that year. And one bad tournament, obviously it is TI, so there's a lot of importance on it, but huge turnover after one disappointing result. Can you talk about how that works? Is it just like a broken team? Was there no salvaging what you had?
So roster shuffles are kind of a toxic thing in Dota, especially since everything revolves just around TI, unfortunately. And sometimes I think it makes sense, but for a lot of the times, you can kind of stick through it and work on your problems and become better in the end. So it really is a bit of a case-by-case scenario. I don't really blame like anyone for wanting to leave, especially because Crit always wanted to play with Arteezy. They've been friends for a long time, and he had an opportunity, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go with this." He was like very upfront about it, and I was like, "This is totally fine." Miracle, we actually did think he was gonna stay in the team until a bit later, where he ended up going with Kuro. So yeah, it's sometimes necessary, but a lot of times it isn't. Is how I see it. And there's definitely a better way of doing roster shuffles, as I kind of learned over the years, which I'll get to more about this later, I think, as we progress through the TIs.
Right.
So yeah, we brought in basically Ana was a crazy scout because I had just randomly some guy when I was in China. Some guy came up to me and he was like, "I have this young player that I'm being an agent for. If you're ever interested, have a look at this guy." And this was like months ago when we had in the middle of the season, I think before Shanghai Major. And then I suddenly recalled this conversation after TI, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna check this guy out. Ended up looking at his pubs and seeing like, okay, this guy has like potential, Ana, and ended up contacting him. And he also ended up living in my place for a bit in Israel. I don't think he liked it there very much, but similar situation actually. I guess I had a bunch of random people in my house over the years, but that's kind of how that came to be with Ana.
And then you guys went on to win 2 more majors that year, despite having a huge turn. I mean, that's a 60% turnover rate on your roster. Didn't matter apparently. So talk about how those experiences maybe differed from the previous 2.
Yeah, I think those wins were so. I think that's when they had the single elimination format, right? Like Boston Major. We kind of just. I think one thing we had going that was good for us is that we were very smart at figuring out the game and abusing it to the max. So that's, a lot of teams labeled us as like a team that abuses illusions and like this alchemist. And we actually did. We just abused those heroes to the max. We just figured out like, hey, we can do all these crazy strats around these particular heroes and we're just going to abuse it because it's going to make us win. And obviously Notel is like an amazing micro player. Like that's one of his strengths as a player. So we abused those and the wins didn't feel as satisfying as those other ones because it just felt like there was more weight to like Frankfurt Major and Manila Major, but still, awesome wins. It's still obviously amazing.
Does it also feel not as great because after winning the Boston Major, the logo shown was the Digital Chaos one? Do you remember seeing that photo? DC wins, and they weren't even in the finals.
I actually don't even remember that, but now I know. So that's. Oh man,
Suns found our way to a victory at the Boston Major, apparently. Okay, so those 2 majors didn't feel as good. That's interesting to hear. Why do you think that is?
Just the thing is, what was even the 4th major? I'm trying to recall exactly what happened. I mean, Boston, I remember.
Kiev, I think.
Yeah, Kiev. Actually, Kiev felt amazing. Never mind. Boston major was probably the most forgettable one. in all of this. But Cave Major was definitely amazing because that was like a hard-fought battle where we had no business winning. We should have lost that game 500%. But sometimes, like all it takes is one moment in Dota.
Yeah, I remember this game. That was against
Yes.
VP, right? Game 5
Yeah.
against VP. You had
That was
Ana was troll or something, right?
he was troll mid.
I remember this
Noto
game.
was playing Timber
Oh my
Saw,
god.
Centaur on S4, and they were holding our triangle. They were ahead in the game, and then no one, the mid player, he TPs out while he's on full vision, and then S4 gets like a triple man Centaur stomp, and we completely turned the game around. Ramses was playing Alchemist. He went for some really strange build, like to kind of enable his OD mid because he didn't want to go too greedy, but he didn't go to the normal build, the
Yeah.
Radiance build. And after that fight, we basically completely turned the game around. That game was wild. That was a full of emotion. That finals. That was crazy.
So those two major victories into another TI, another disappointing result. What was this result? Was that 9-12 as well, or was it slightly better?
No, it was 7-8. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe we lost to LGD. I think I want to say LGD.
Was
got
this
eliminated.
TI6?
No, this
7.
was
TI7.
TI7.
No, the one before. Yeah, right. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I just didn't think we were good enough at that. Yeah, I don't exactly remember why, but we just couldn't get it together. I think like Kiev run is a bit of a miracle run for us, and I think everything we played kind of got nerfed to the ground, and we just couldn't find our place again, like in the same way.
Do you or any of your teammates, like, do you feel the pressure at it? Obviously, TI, you're going to feel pressure, but do you feel more so being the team that won 2 majors, like the target's on your back, so to speak? Like, we talk about this all the time, like a theoretical basis, but is that actually a thing? Like when you're in the booth, you feel a little more pressure as a result?
Oh man, you kind of feel everything at the booth, like inside the booth. It's hard to describe. I might not be articulate enough, but you can kind of feel the enemy team when you play against them. You feel their emotion, and if they have fire or if they're playing to lose. You can feel yourself if you have pressure, and if you're a type of team / person that actually thrives off of pressure, which I think a lot of like the best teams or the best players in the world, they thrive when there's pressure, because there is pressure, especially during TI when you enter those booths and you sit down and you feel it for sure. Because even though we tell ourselves, like don't worry about it, just go out there, have fun, you're gonna feel the pressure. It's just gonna happen. It's natural. And if you are somebody that can use that and become even better, then that's when champions are born. So it's a really cool thing, because during a game, something that can happen that can completely change the mood and the atmosphere for a team. That's why, like I was saying earlier, when we were underdogs and we had like a slight momentum, that was a huge thing for us. That was fire. That means people are talking more, people are actively looking for things to do on the map. We're like hyper aware. Our focus is 110%. So I really think it matters a lot. So having a target on your back, going back to your question, you do feel that way, but it's something you can overcome and actually use to your advantage. Going into that TI though, I didn't think we had a target on our backs. I don't think we were as strong, even though we actually won the previous major.
Well,
So,
that was very eloquent, by the way. I disagree with your assessment that it was not going to be. That was fucking awesome to hear. Thank you.
I was just gonna ask. So I think you made an interesting point. Like you guys did really well at a major, and then your strategies got nerfed to the ground. You go into TI, you don't really have like the same footing in the patch. Do you think that kind of ties into what Shannon was asking earlier about peaking too early? Do you think inherently, because of the way patches generally nerf the winning strategy of the biggest tournaments of the year, that being a team that wins more leading into TI is a quote unquote higher risk almost, because there's a higher chance that the thing you perfect and that you are better than everyone else at is the exact thing that gets nerfed, and then you need to reinvent yourselves basically, whereas other teams might just by chance the thing they're good with is now better. Do you think that's a big deal, or?
I do. I think, again, over the years, this matters a bit less, but I do think it mattered a lot back then because, yeah, like you said, we had a specific way of playing, and it kind of got nerfed to the ground. and it means we weren't good enough to actually pivot in time. That's one thing that it meant. Like, certain teams right now, they might be able to pull off anything. Like, I look at LGD, they're probably a team that can pull off any of those strategies. One of the only teams in the world. So that's a world-class team if you look at it right now. I don't think we were a world-class team back then, even though we were able to win so much. We were very strong in one specific thing, or maybe two, but we weren't complete. We weren't 100% complete. So it did actually, now that you say it like that, it does make a lot of sense that it did matter, the fact that we actually won that major and got everything nerfed for us. For us specifically, it mattered a lot.
Okay, so post TI, you're going to have to remind me on some of the details here, or all of them, in fact, because I literally don't remember. Did you guys change your roster at all?
Yes, Resolution came in instead of Ana.
That's right. Okay.
I think that was it.
That was Anna's like first of many retirements, I believe. Okay, so Resolution fills in, and that did not work out very well.
No,
what do you think the reasons for that is?
I think he wasn't 100% comfortable in the team initially, Roman, and we didn't give him the time that he needed to like become part of the team. Because sometimes you get in a player and everything fits in perfectly. Sometimes it doesn't, and then you have to make the choice of continuing with that player or basically changing that player. And I think we needed more time, and I think he didn't feel 100% trust in him, which was a bit of the case back then. So that's something that kind of gnaws at you, like like you can kind of feel it if there's not 100% trust in you.
Right.
So he was not given the perfect setup for success, I'd say.
Okay, and then we delve into what many people consider the biggest drama of all. I don't even remember how this started. You left the team. Just take me through it from the beginning. I'll just let you take it over.
Yeah, so I'm gonna need 1 second to think about.
Because did Ana end up replacing Resolution before that?
No, that was after.
Okay.
That was later. But before the me going to EG thing happened, Resolution wasn't really part of the team anymore. He actually got kicked for Seb, basically.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I think the best way for me to, like, the way I want to address this is I want to explain a little bit and then redirect it towards a different situation. So the way I left the team, I handled the situation poorly, and I definitely regret how I handled it, but I did learn from it and grew a lot as a person. I think because I've been competing at this level for so long, and I am fortunate to have this platform, I want to address that, something we're kind of familiar with, and that's that there's a line between criticism of a player's actions at the time and dragging it out years later, kind of for fun, quote unquote. I get the heat of what happened, and I understand that when you compete at the highest level, whether it's sports or esport or whatever it is, players are going to get criticism. And every time we compete, we are opening ourselves up to the public. And some people might look at this and say, like, if you can't take the heat, don't play. And I've heard it before. And I do have thick skin, and you need it at this level of competition, right? People criticize when they care, so I'd rather they care than they don't. And that's addressing the Dota community in general. Like, obviously, we care a lot about our game. It's been about 4 years, I think, since this happened, and I've tried to move on, but these sort of things the community just won't move on from. I compete in this game because I love it. I do interviews because I still want to engage with this community, but repeatedly being labeled as a traitor for every match or interview over 4 years kind of chips away at you. So I think we need to set the bar higher for ourselves and our community. This isn't about which team you're cheering for or what players you're a fan of. We can be passionate without being harmful. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about this.
Well said. And it's weird because I'm just a fucking boomer, I guess, but the reaction to some of this stuff, I just don't understand either, like from my perspective at all. Because it's one thing, like I can understand why like from what I know at least, which probably is very little in comparison to what you know, but like No-Tail being mad about this, I get that. Like I can get, and obviously there's some reason that you can talk about it if you want, but you don't have to. There's some reason you wanted to leave. Maybe it was toxic at the time or whatever. And the fact that you have not really pulled any punches since then at all, that is like the classiest thing you can do. And it's just weird when people just kind of, it's like a sore winner. That's my biggest pet peeve in life. Sore winners. This is why I fucking hate the Lakers. Side topic, but sore winners make me so mad. It's like you've won. I mean, you guys got third. I mean, you can talk about this as well. You got third at TI. You did really fucking well, but it's just weird that it's been dragged out. I agree.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where I want to leave that for now. I think I said what I had to say, and we can move on to TI.
Sure. So TI with EG, you're with a new roster. You guys get top 3. Talk about that experience. That was a pretty great run.
Yeah, it was the furthest I've gone in at any TI. It was fun playing those games. There was a lot of like a good atmosphere. Sometimes when you kind of join a new team, there was a bit of the honeymoon phase, and I think that's kind of where we were at. Like everybody, we don't really know all of our problems just yet. We're kind of like just getting used to each other. So we had a really good run. I think we were good enough to win the whole thing. But sometimes you just wake up and it's not your day. It's a bit hard to kind of describe, but we woke up the final day playing against LGD and we just didn't have it. Like we were not there at all. Compared to our previous matches, we were not 100% focused. We were not in sync. Because I do think we were actually good enough to win that whole thing. So that happened, but I still had a lot of fun playing that TI. I know there was like the whole grudge match between OG, which was like a lot of emotion filled there. That match was a very close match as well. We ended up throwing that game 3 like crazy. They did obviously a good job of coming back into that game. It was a very exciting TI. As a fan, I'm sure as well. That was probably one of the most exciting TIs we've had.
Okay, and then the following year, did you guys change the roster at all?
No, we stayed with the same roster that year.
What? Remind me what the full roster was.
S4,
S4,
Crit, myself, and Sumil and Arteezy.
Okay.
With Bulba coaching.
So that full, just I guess you can skip by anything that you don't find interesting, but that full year into the next TI, because that's leading up to TI 9 now, I believe.
Yeah, I think if there's anything, we made it pretty far in most of the majors, but we were kind of on hibernation mode most of that year. To be honest, I think I was still not at that time. I wasn't 100% in like the best space, like in terms of my mindset, and I think people were a bit lazy in general. Like we didn't really do our best, but we still somehow made it pretty far in every tournament. We kind of cheated our way through a lot of these tournaments, I think.
Being an NA, that does help, right? At least at that time.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that was my first full year of being an NA player, actually. Yeah, coming to think about it. But yeah, we did pretty well most of our tournaments. We didn't win anything, but we always made it to pretty much the final day. Which it's always something you want to strive for. You want to be in the final day. You don't want to watch from the stands. So going into TI 9, oh man, that was a crazy boot camp. That was one of the most memorable boot camps. First of all, it was in China, which was crazy. Big shout out to the team that helped us. Waveform. They set up a really nice boot camp for us. In China, it was very strange. I think we had like 10 routers in the room or something. There were like, the house was really nice, but it was also, the kitchen was kind of infested with cockroaches for some reason, so I never really went in. So I had our manager. He like, I like making my own breakfast, but I was like, I'd rather not cook in there. Can you just make me something? To our manager, and he did that.
He was like, yeah, I can make you a cockroach.
But man, that boot camp was rough. We were really bad going into that boot camp. We were really bad. Like we didn't put in the work beforehand. Like we didn't try our best. We didn't come prepared, because usually when you go into a boot camp, you want everybody to be like individually ready. So that means playing a lot of pubs, understanding your heroes, your timings, kind of have an idea of how you want to play, and then you want to obviously communicate with your team about what you've been doing all this time and how you think the game should be played. So when you sync up, you're going to be better. And we didn't really do that part. There were like some, I guess, motivational issues, you could say. So the boot camp was really rough. Like we lost everything in the beginning, but we did actually improve every single day that we played. We improved. So it was really hard because of all the losing, but it was also really cool to see that we can actually grow from it, and we improved a lot. I think that's the most yelling I've ever seen Bulba do during that time. He got really mad some of these days at how the team played. But we did learn and we did get better. So like the end result was good. It's just that the process was very, very hard. We played so many games. We were having discussions every day. It was very weird. I've never had a bootcamp like that before. So yeah, then we go into the tournament. Group stage starts off really rough for us. We almost don't make it. We did manage to kind of clinch it in the end and qualify to upper bracket. And I think we made top 6 that tournament. We made top 6. I think we beat Secret. Then I think we lost to OG. And then who did we lose to in the lower bracket? Can't remember.
Syndrin, you're the robot. Research it.
I don't remember. It's a lot of tournaments.
I think it was Nigma in the end. Nigma or were they still?
They were Liquid then, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I think
Is this before or after TI8?
This is TI9.
Oh, if it is TI9, then it was Nigma, right?
No. Nigma have never been to TI. It was Liquid.
Oh.
I think they were Liquid back
Why are you
then.
asking me, Shannon?
That's a good question. Why are you on this podcast? Okay, so top 6, still very good result at TI. And then this is for me, maybe not other, this is the most interesting year of all. Leading to TI10, you guys get second place at 2 majors. The first one was Singapore. Yeah, that was the one where you guys were up 2. Talk to me about this one, because your roster changes a bit as well. You don't have Sumail anymore, right?
Yeah. Initially, we brought in Abed and Ramses. That was the initial one, and then obviously COVID happened. Ramses we did want to play with Ramses, but and we actually made it to another finals before. We made it to the second place in the Germany major against Secret with Ramses. And
Germany
after
major.
that happened, Leipzig, I think it was
Leipzig.
Okay.
Leipzig. We actually made second place that tournament, so we were good with Ramses. It's just that the COVID thing happened, and then he would, the whole online thing for a year. It was hard for him like to see the end result because he was naturally a carry player, and it was hard for him to like have to play these online games for a year or even longer. We didn't know when TI was going to be, so we ended up parting ways. Even though I think that roster did have like its potential. Bring in Ice, and yeah, we did really well. Obviously, getting second place at 2 majors. Probably should have won the first one. Second one, no, but probably should have won the first one.
I'm going to quickly interrupt because this is going to be on everybody's mind. The whole Bulba thing. I don't know. I mean, I've worked with Bulba. I love the guy. I think he's hilarious. Picking Storm Spirit literally every game. That's the thing people always talk about. Can you address that to some degree?
Oh man, I'm thinking because in a way I'm also giving away how they think.
Well, does that matter anymore?
That's a solid point. I think
this is your big chance to get revenge on Bulba.
Fuck Bulba.
As Shannon described earlier, I'm not someone that just punches back, but
true. But Bulba is so easily punched. It's almost like you're doing everybody a service.
So the way I can put it is that Abed kind of has a role on the team, and he's someone who's been very stable at what he does, which obviously everybody can look at the games and be like, yeah, this guy plays like spirits and puck every game. And he's very good at it. and that was kind of his role to be able to enable our playstyle back then with Ice Ice Ice. Ice 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 he's obviously a very, very talented player. He's very flexible. He was especially good on those like annoying micro heroes like the Beastmasters and the Brood Mothers and all that. So in a way for our team to function, that was kind of what was necessary, is for Abed to do his role as like this kind of playmaker. So specifically why Storm just doesn't lose a lot of mid matchups. I think that's one of the main reasons, is like you can kind of pick him fairly early. It usually goes well with like what Crit likes to play, so he can roam mid, like his Air Spirit and whatnot. We did that plenty of times. I'm sure people understand this by now. So it just made sense. It was kind of a way to structure our drafting to be very stable. And if it's something you can say about EG, is that it's a fairly stable team. Very consistent, almost always high placements. And that's part of the drafting process, is because the drafting process is stable, you're going to have usually stable results. Maybe it's not the push that's needed to be a champion team, because we didn't actually get first place, but it was good enough to get us into almost every final day of any tournament, right?
And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but the question mark, did it actually have any impact on you guys mentally?
No, no, at least not from me. I
Right.
didn't even notice. I was only told after. I don't know. I was just I usually go into games and I just mute everyone on the
Right.
enemy team, and I just do my thing. I don't care about this. Like whenever people spam their voice lines, I just don't want to hear it, because like I want to just listen to what my team is saying. Some people use it to try and tilt others, but when you're muting them, it doesn't really do anything.
Right.
It's kind of chill. And I will say though, there is a difference between a well-timed voice line to like a random one. Like I kind of appreciate it when I watch matches and somebody like drops in like a specific hero voice line to like a specific moment in the game, and I'm like, okay, that's okay. But when they
Thompson's
just
good at
spam it,
that.
It's like
yeah, Thompson's actually really good at that. He's
He's the
really good at
best.
that. Yeah,
it's almost
so
like
I
a form
appreciate
of
that.
art in some ways.
Yeah, I like that too. I'm a much bigger fan of that than the taunts and everything.
Yeah,
It's
so,
more clever. It's fun.
so I'm a fan of that, but not the random spamming. Even though some people will use it for their motivation. Obviously, worked for OG in the past, like as a sort of mind game. But like I said, it doesn't really affect me because you just mute them.
Right. Okay. So
So-
second. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one thing. So you were saying that like EG's recipe, or whatever you want to call it, like lots of high placements, not as many championships, but a lot of top threes. If you could choose between 4 third places or 1 first place and 3 eighth places, what do you choose?
We're not counting TI here, are we?
No, just let's eliminate that, because it's
Then it's an easy answer. It's kind of tough because if we don't get first place, we're all going to be disappointed. I think every player is the same. I'm sure you know it as well. But in terms of how good you are at the game, oh man, it's actually really tough. I think if it was in the moment, I would choose the first place.
Mhm.
Looking back at it, I would choose third placement consistently.
Because that's something Shannon and I have been talking about, right? Like we've been talking about what are the greatest teams of the last years, and we're always talking about EG as like the arguably sometimes the top of our list, even though you didn't win the big tournaments, but you were always like top 3 contention. Then there's other teams that like win here or there, but then don't even make top 8, and you're always up there. So like from our perspective, going to tournaments, we always had EG high on the power rankings for that reason, right? So it's just interesting because from Shannon, I think we agree on this, right? Like we considered the last year or the last 2 years, EG the single best team, right? Even though the championships weren't there.
Yep.
For that reason, right? And it's interesting because it seems like at least from what I'm getting from the community's perspective, they don't consider EG the greatest team of that year because the championship wasn't there. So it's really interesting to hear what your perspective is, because we look at it like more from a like pragmatic standpoint, whatever you want to call it. Like top 3 is really good. Like this game is mega hard. Winning any given championship will always be super hard. Placing top 3 consistently, in my opinion, is harder than winning once. That's what I think, because you need to always be at a high level of the game. You don't need to like have like this one good month or whatever. So I think that's really impressive, and I find it interesting to hear your answer on that. So
Yeah. I do think being consistent is a sign of like a great Dota team. That's why in the end, like looking back at it, I would choose third placements because it doesn't mean you're consistent. And to be the best team, you have to be consistent. And that's why we mentioned earlier in the podcast, like you have these repeating players coming back to TI because they're consistently good, and you have these guys that come in for one time and then they disappear. So I'd rather be one of the consistent guys in the end. Like I do want to win. I have one, and I know I can do it. But yeah, consistency is really important.
So finishing off with that year, or this last year, you guys were top of my power rankings at least, and then into TI, disappointing showing 9-12. I guess briefly talk about how TI was different than the past. I mean, it was a weird TI as well.
Yeah, that was from a player participating in the tournament. That was definitely the worst TI, and this is not because I blame PGL or anything like that or Valve. It's just a COVID situation. It was just rough, like having to do everything pretty last minute and basically not having a crowd. I think they did the best given the situation in terms of setting it up for us, just to be able to play. The fake crowd was kind of interesting, though. I will say it helped. But yeah, it didn't have the same feeling. You're not gonna get that same energy that you get from playing in front of a crowd, and everything was just it was just different. COVID situation. What can you do? That's just life. We couldn't really figure out internally how to correctly structure our team for this TI. Again, this was a bit of a situation of what we played kind of got nerfed a little bit. Like we abused this initially. We abused this necro thing for Singapore. Got removed from the game literally. I can't entirely blame him for that in a way, because that item has been historically one of the hardest items to balance. But literally abused that in a tournament. Should have probably won that tournament. Item got removed from the game. Gone to Singapore. Again, we have like our style. We abuse certain heroes like Timbersaw. We abused our Broodmothers. Kind of got nerfed again. And then going into TI, there was like this whole new meta that evolved, which was a much more stable TI. And I think that didn't really favor our style of playstyle from like the 3-4 position. It favors the teams that played this. So obviously there was the Lycan thing, which is one thing we were very good at, which was always perma-banned against us. The Lycan Tiny, everybody ran it. But this whole stable playstyle with like a Magnus offlane, a Tidehunter offlane, a Doom offlane, like that was basically how all the top teams kind of structured in the end, except LGD, who had like a bit of their own flair in there, like that changed up a bit. But almost all the teams just kind of played around that, and that was not our strongest suit at the time. We did try to make it work. It didn't really work for us. We had kind of split opinions towards the end of the tournament, which I think ultimately led to our demise. We just couldn't get on the same page, which we usually have been able to before. We just couldn't get it. So yeah, that was a disappointing result for all of us. And I guess while we're at it, I can kind of say that I wanted to get something off my chest, if that's okay with you guys.
By all means.
Yeah, so I just want to tell you a bit of the timeline of what happened after that disappointing result at TI. Which I guess is what you were going to ask anyways.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, disappointing result for us. And then this goes back a bit to what I was saying earlier about toxic roster shuffles and how I kind of grew as a person. So what I've been doing in the past few years after TI, especially like every TI, basically, when you lose, and I've basically lost all the TIs regardless of placement, is I want to gather my team in the room and just be like, hey, it sucks that we lost. First of all, I try to see how people feel. If they want to share, usually people still need time to process. It's a very soul crushing experience, right? Because we all live for this tournament. literally this tournament. Like nothing else actually matters in the grand scheme of Dota, even though it's a bit sad. That's just the reality of our system. So yeah, I gather everyone, and I'm like, I'm sure we're all disappointed, and what I like to do is that if somebody wants to leave the team or is thinking about replacing a player or any of these types of thoughts over the coming days or weeks, I just want to be open about it, and that's so we avoid doing more harm later. So in a way, it's like if you have something hard to say, you can tell it to me privately, or you can tell Bulba, one of us two, so we can kind of communicate through each other, so everybody's on the same page. This is just to avoid any more bad situations that have happened in the past from my experience. This is like the best way to do it. If I don't want to play with this player, I'm going to talk to him individually and be like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm just no longer interested. It's going to hurt at that moment, but it's going to be better in the long run, right? Because you just need to know these things. Like everything happens very fast in this world. So I had that conversation with the guys, and then I think Daryl, Ice, and Crit, they flew home right away. Abed was unfortunately stuck for a while. I think he couldn't go back because of COVID restrictions. So it was basically myself, Bulba, and Artur. We stayed a bit longer, and we talked amongst ourselves, like how are we thinking after a bit more time has passed. It was pretty clear that Artur didn't want to play with Ice anymore, and initially, actually, both Bulba and myself, we both stated that we actually want to play with the exact same roster. That was the initial feeling I had. I felt like we didn't really get to show our best, and I really did like this roster. Like I love Daryl. He's an awesome guy. He's really good. And I think we just had to do some structural changes within the team and like how we operate, how we who exactly has like the reins on the team, because it was a bit of a shared power. So yeah, that was what we were initially thinking, both of us, both Bulbo and I. And then Artur said he didn't want to play with Ice. And then basically it was decided right away. That was the only thing that was set in stone, is that Daryl is out of the team. So he got told, I think right after TI ended, that he's no longer part of the team, and then everything else was a bit up in the air. We did talk amongst ourselves about how it would look moving forward, and the one concern we had is that we've had this roster for a while now, specifically Crit, Artur, and myself. We've been playing for a long time together. And this goes back a bit to the point of, do you want to continue trying to work on this roster that hasn't won, even though we have been consistently very successful, or do we want to try something else? And Bulba and I initially felt like we can work on this and make it work, because we've been very close, and I felt like we were very strong that year. So that was a bit of a question mark. And then TI ends, people fly home. I fly on to Italy for a vacation with Evany. And during my time in Italy, between eating all the delicious pizza and ice cream and all that, sorry, gelato, don't kill me, please. Delicious. I was still talking to all of the guys. I tried to talk to Bulba about like what we're doing moving forward, and it all seemed to point towards us continuing with the same roster, just bringing in a new offlaner. And back then, I think we mentioned Nightfall, mentioned Gabby. I think JT was in talks as well at the time. But yeah, during those discussions, it seemed like we were just going to do some structural changes and then continue with the same roster plus a new offlaner. But what I did notice was that when I was writing to Artur specifically, that something was a bit off in how he responded. Because when you text somebody, usually there's a certain way that they respond, and if they change their pattern, that means something is off. I don't know, maybe you guys had that experience with like a significant other or not. That's probably the easiest example when you notice this. But yeah, I noticed something was off, and I was kind of getting stressed about it. And that's kind of, Evany helped me out. She was like, "Why don't you just ask him?" Like sometimes we just have the problem of not asking a question, which is very simple. So I asked him like, "Hey, is everything okay?" the way you've been writing is very cold. I think I asked him kind of straight up, if what's going on. And I was reassured that everything's okay. No, I'm tired from these conversations about different offlaners. So I'm like, okay. Instinctually, you know, like the gut feeling, I still felt like something was off, but I'm not gonna push on someone when he's saying he's tired, and he just said everything's okay. So all right. Fast forward a bit, I fly to Israel to see my family. I think I haven't seen them since COVID, so it's been like 2 years. And this is roughly 2 weeks after TI, so this was end of October. Yeah, this was end of October / beginning of November. I get this call from Bulba, and he basically just says that I'm no longer part of the team, and we're bringing in Jerax and Nightfall. So that was a bit of a shocker for me, for sure. And the unfortunate part is that the timeline was really bad, because I kind of reached out after that happened. I reached out to different players and teams and be like, "Hey, what's going on with you guys?" And almost everyone has already soft committed or basically signed a contract,
Right.
because TI shuffles happen very fast. As soon as a team is out of the tournament, if they're not playing on the final day, they're already thinking about the shuffles. They're already contacting players, contacting organizations. Like, these things happen really fast. So there were very limited options for me after that happened. So, you know, yeah, that was kind of the situation where I was at.
Okay. I mean, I guess this is a kind of a follow up as in regards to. I mean, I always like to compare esports to traditional sports, and for the most part, Dota is very player centric. Like, players just control the rosters, which, you know, it gives you freedom in some regard, but it also, you know, ends up having a lot of toxicity as a result, because these are young kids mostly we're talking about. And like in a traditional sports, it's a general manager that's doing everything, right? Do you think that this is like one of the major flaws of it's most likely, I mean, it's just Dota is the big one, because a lot of the other sports, traditional or esports, have more traditional sports models, right?
Yeah. It's hard to say because I've never been in the other situation, but I do think it would have avoided a lot of these kind of conflicts. Because in the end, it's less about the decision; it was just the way that it actually happened.
Right.
Because if it happened after TI, like, hey, you know, we're thinking of playing with someone else, and then that would be like, all right, that's, you know, that sucks, but it's fine because I'm gonna have time to figure out what I'm doing for myself. You know, maybe there's a dedicated time period for that to happen, which is kind of what they're trying to do with like the drop period. But yeah, as long as players are controlling it, it's never gonna be done the right way, which is something I was trying to avoid with my whole kind of talk that I give after TI.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it could help, but it would also have some negative impact as well. I'm pretty sure that's how the Chinese scene operates or has operated, that the team owners just decide a lot of things. So I do think it could get in the way of certain chemistry and certain player understanding. But there will be a downside and an upside to this. But it's just not how Valve operates, right? It's just not something they're gonna do.
Do you think the primary reason, I mean, first of all, I'm assuming based on how you said it that you agree with Shannon, this is probably more a thing in Dota than in other esports. Do you think the primary reason that that's the case is the magnitude of TI, so that with the entire year being structured this heavily around one tournament, the players want the power so that they can structure the roster that they believe in the moment is going to go far for that, versus the orgs like building something more long term? Is it just like an inherent result of that, so that structural changes in the, let's say, for example, prize pool distribution of the year or magnitude of tournaments would naturally just gravitate toward a more org-centric style? Or is it just the way players are in Dota in general more than the system? What do you think?
So, in a way, I think Dota players, they can only see up till the next TI. That's our vision. We don't think further ahead, and I think part of it is because of how Valve structured things. which is basically not to structure almost anything. But in a way, like when you look at other games, like the orgs, they build a brand around players. They
Mhm.
build their own brand at the same time, but they're thinking long term. They're not thinking. They're thinking a lot about. They're going to think a lot about TI, but they're going to think about the whole year and what they can do with this team, what content they can do, the socials, do all these things for the team with the team. And Dota players just don't think that way. I'm sure a lot of players don't think that way, and I think that's a bit of this case as well, right? Like we're just given the power to choose our roster for TI, and then we do the same thing every year. But if orgs had more of a say, then it would be different because they would try to create a brand. And even if a team is not going to succeed at a TI, if they had good results throughout the year, there's a high chance they would just stick to the same roster, right? They're always going to take some input from the players because it does matter in the end, like how the players feel. But I do think it would have created a healthier ecosystem. I just don't know if it's too late. Probably is. I mean, it would be like drastic changes, and I'm sure like a lot of this conversation has been circulating for a long time now
Yeah.
over the Dota structure, and that it's not very healthy for anyone but the teams winning, and it still is the case.
So piggybacking off of that TI thing, how much do you think would change if, and this is the idea we pitch everybody, nobody disagrees with us except for Valve apparently, but let's say Valve wants to keep breaking their record every year with TI, right? 30 or whatever the fuck it is now. Who cares at this point?
40 something.
40 something. You just increase the cap by $1 each year. So you're still breaking the record, and any surplus money is distributed to the majors and other third-party tournaments or whatever the case may be throughout the rest of the year. Do you think that would have a positive impact overall?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
common sense, right?
I would love that. Yeah, it's common sense. I mean, when you look at it, we're playing this. I think pretty much all the players really dislike the league structure. Nobody wants to play for 6 weeks for. It's barely any money, at least in Western standpoint. Like maybe for these Southeast Asian players, like $1,000, $2,000, whatever it may be, like from Division 2, is enough to keep them afloat. But this is not sustainable for somebody who lives in Europe or America or like certain parts of Europe. So it's really difficult to be a Dota player. We don't have the support that we need unless you're a top team. And even the majors, they've gotten a big hit because obviously like a lot of the money is going towards these leagues, but even majors are only, I think, 500,000 now as a total prize pool, which it used to be 3 million. And sure, like some people I'm sure people did the math, and like if you combine all the league money and the major money, then it might account for more, but
it's definitely not more than the 3 mil. It's more than the 1 million, I think.
So yeah, we're still in the same boat in the end, where it's kind of just not good for anyone in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do a hypothetical. I give you $40 million from the compendium, and now you get to structure an entire year of Dota in whatever way you want. What are you going to do with the money?
So I think...
How big is TI, and how big are the tournaments? How many?
I think what I would do is in the spirit of Dota, I would keep TI as a pretty high price pool. So I would probably look at somewhere between 15 to 20 mil, something like that. I would have leagues. I would have shorter leagues, so there would be more time for like third-party tournaments again. So I would have. I'm fine with the league structure into major. That's totally fine. So I think majors again could be. Let's just go with 2 mil per major, even 2 to 3 mil per major. Rest of the money goes into the league, and then in between all this time that we're gonna have, just have more third-party tournaments, and possibly even I think the regional final thing was pretty cool in a way, from maybe like bonus points, bonus money, regardless of the major happening or not. I would possibly have like a shorter league into a nice little regional finals into majors.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. So I think I would do something like that in terms of money. So TI is still going to be the goal for everyone. It's still going to be really important, but there's going to be so much more money circulating throughout the year.
Right. Okay. Okay. Backtracking just to finish off on the playing career thus far. Talon, esports. I mean, it was pretty brief. You guys were Division 2. I didn't even get to watch any. I figured you guys would make a Division 1 and then I get to watch some, but wasn't the case. So what was that experience like?
Yeah, so this goes off a bit from the timeline of what happened with EG, where I didn't have much time. I believe the qualifiers for Division 2 started around November 19th or 18th or something like that. So essentially, I had less than 3 weeks to figure out what I was doing. And like I said, roster shuffle has already happened. Most of the big teams have already like figured out their rosters. So I was just in talks with Gabby in specific. Like I always respected him as a player, and I always thought he had a lot of talent. So I talked to him about what he's doing. He didn't really have a team, so like, okay, kind of try to build something off of that. And during all of this time, I was in a pretty like stressful feeling for myself because like I wanted to continue playing. Um, and everything happened so fast that I wasn't really aware of exactly what's going on. Like every day was just like pressure, and I was back home trying to see my family. It was a bit of a confusing time, like looking back at it now. So I tried to scrap this team together. He came up with some ideas from Southeast Asia, and I do believe like a lot of the Dota talent is in Southeast Asia, like from where you can find these, basically the new young blood in Dota. It's a lot of it is from Southeast Asia, and a lot of it is from the CIS region.
Mm.
Um, Talon kind of came in the mix in terms of like they wanted to pick up a Dota team, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna try this out. This seemed like the best option for me at the time. Looking back at it, and this is nothing to say against any of the players on the team, I think I made a bad decision because I was just not ready. I should have just taken the time, completely skip out on the first season, and figure out what just happened, type of
Mhm.
thing. And this is in a way you're always going to continue learning and improving. That's just part of a motto of my life. But in sometimes during stressful situations, you need to take a step back and not make a very important decision during that time if you
Right.
can. Obviously, we play Dota, so we make stressful decisions every second. But when it comes to outside of the game, I think people should take the time if they
Mhm.
have the chance. So I should have taken the time. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. We were supposed to all boot camp in Philippines together, like at the start of the roster. Unfortunately, COVID, we had restrictions. When the team was split, I was basically with KP in Thailand. Thailand's really cool, by the way. Both Talon and Thailand are really cool. Um, they were very nice, but we didn't have like ideal playing setup for a new team to gel together. So I fly to Thailand. We play qualifiers literally the day after I arrive, or 2 days after I arrive. So we only had 1 day of scrimming. We lost the first open qual. We made it through the second, um, and it was just rough. Like I said, COVID definitely played a part here in terms of like the setup for everything. Um, I ended up going home after Christmas or for Christmas break, and then I go back into Thailand. I have a quarantine, and again we're put in a position where we only had 1 day of practice
Mm.
because we thought we could get PCs during the quarantine. Didn't really work out, so it was a bit of a logistical nightmare. And like I said, I was not in the best place at the time to really understand what I was getting myself into. So for all the players on that team, like obviously, like after I left, I did talk to them before leaving. But I do think they're good players, and I hope they know that themselves. Like moving forward, that they still believe in themselves.
Okay. So then we move on to seeing you several times, although nobody would acknowledge that you were being seen. Coaching TSM, I assume, during the regional finals.
That
Is that right?
was not Saberlight, believe it or not. Yeah, so I got home and I was just thinking what I could do, to keep myself in the space and trying to think about things. Unfortunately, the DPC system is not very forgiving towards new teams. Like having to play through this Division 2 and through these open quals, it's a bit of a headache. And the thing is, I didn't even realize all of this until I was like in that position, which is pretty crazy. I just didn't realize how bad it was
Mm.
for new teams. So I guess I gained some newfound respect for them. Um, so yeah, I got back. Obviously I played with Moon before in the past, and I approached him and I was like, "Hey, do you guys have a coach?" He said, "Nope." and then we just kind of tried it out. We tried a little bit before the regional finals. I was kind of with them for like maybe a bit over a week. I was with them like online, like just coaching them, trying it out. And then the regional finals, like I went over there. Obviously, this was not in an official capacity because they're picked up by TSM, and TSM wants to do things in a professional manner, right? So that's why things weren't really announced. Things went really well. The guys are awesome. I have a lot of respect for the players on that team. The reason I approached them in the first place is because I think they're very talented. Like all of them are they're young, they're hungry, super talented, very hardworking. And it's no surprise to me that they won the whole thing. Obviously, I was there and I helped in my way, but I do think they're a really good team. So that was an interesting experience. That was the first time I tried coaching.
Did it feel good beating EG? Be honest. Be honest now.
Yes. It's not the same as playing, for sure.
Right.
But I did take satisfaction, especially when, funny enough, we did kind of call how they were going to draft in the end.
Did they pick Storm Spirit? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, the final game was... It was. I mean, the best thing about it is like Moon and I were just talking before the series even started, and I was like, at some point in the series, they're probably going to do this, and we were right. So that was those are one of those like fun predictions, like when a plan comes together type of thing, like
right.
That's kind of a fun thing. So yeah, it was satisfying for sure.
Did EG know that you were there during the match, or?
I think it was leaked because I didn't even realize Tomato was streaming one of the days and he had camera on, no mic, and I just so happened to sit kind of close to him, so I walked by a few times and people noticed. So I'm pretty sure people knew before it even happened. So, Bulba is he's very connected within everybody in the NA scene.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody got the news, he would get the news.
All right, so I have a lot more written down, but we're going to cut this down a bit. So I have 3 more things, and then we do trivia, okay? So first and foremost, what else do you have planned for the year? Are you going to be doing more coaching with TSM? I assume you're still looking to try to play. I don't know if that's even possible before TI at this point, unless something opens up. Well, what are your plans?
So
analyst work, maybe?
TSM basically they wanted me to join like in a full official capacity, but I respectfully declined. They went to Dubai without me because I wanted to use that time to kind of really think about things. This is what I learned from the start of the year. Don't go do something just because you're feeling like the time pressure or stress.
Right.
I really wanted to take the time while they went to Dubai and think about things. And I decided that I don't want to coach yet. I am definitely skipping out on a big opportunity because I think they have a ton of potential. But I do want to continue playing. It's not going to happen for this season because, like I said, everything will just... Joining a team's mid-season is pretty hard in general. And it's not something I was really looking for very much. So, yeah, I still want to play. I still believe in myself, and I've learned a lot, and I grew a lot as a player and as a captain, and I think there's a lot more I can offer. I definitely want to make it to TI. But in the meantime, I do want to, I would look to do like analyst work or possibly casting, and just generally engage more with the community, whether it is I stream or whatnot. I think just being a part of the community is really important for me. Even though like I've addressed, that there have been some toxic things, but there's also been a lot of great things with this community. So I am looking forward to doing that in the meantime, right? I'm still a part of Dota, and it's always going to be a part of me. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
You can fill in for Cinder and casting anytime you want. Take his job.
That's a weird way to say replace Shannon. Let's
Yeah, true. Okay, this is a general question, but I don't know. I've always praised the way that I look at like the captains of Dota being the rarest thing, like just really fucking good captains. Like you have, OG was kind of weird. I guess I don't know who it is, Seb or No-Till or whatever, but you have Puppy, Kuro, them, you. It's such an elite company, and it seems like right now I feel like you're the biggest free agent by far. What do you think, though, does it take to be a good captain?
Oof. It's a loaded question in a way. I think a good captain doesn't demand respect; he just earns it. I think that's a really important quality because you want your team to respect you the way that you respect them, and you want to be treated, in a good way. And some people they might try to demand that of their players, and that's not a way that you become a good captain, the way I see it. So I think it happens naturally to those who have that within them to be a captain, right? Um, and this can go to anything. This could be just doing a really good job in how you help the team individually, or to elevate their performance through drafting, through replay sessions, through just talking to the players. It could be so many different things that you can do as a captain, and it's and the other thing is just the ability to learn. We're always going to be in a journey of learning. That's why we love Dota in general, because every time you play Dota, you're going to learn something new every single day. I think that's a quality that all of us Dota players have in some way, but captains really use that to continue learning and improving every single time.
Okay, very nice. Okay, and then last question before we get to the trivia. What are your thoughts on the Primal Beast patch? Things that come
Oh
to
boy.
mind are the 25-minute bracer bullshit, things like
Yeah.
that. What are your
15-minute shards.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man.
And also your thoughts on what didn't change, because a lot of people are asking for like major economy changes or map changes, the stuff that we didn't get. Like, what do you think is there and isn't there?
I think first and foremost, I do think it's a disappointing patch from like a pro player standpoint, because the game has been the same for a very long time, and even though arguably it's one of the best patches we've ever had in terms of how like stable it is, I did want something else. I did want map changes. I thought maybe the way the economy works, like making the jungle a little stronger, doesn't really change the game. When you think about it, sure, it's a buff to like Chen and Ench and all these heroes, and Dark Troll Summoner is absolutely wild and broken. But once all that stuff gets kind of tuned, we're gonna have still a very similar game where like you're always gonna find gold right now on the map. Like there's just so many creeps to hit, which is kind of what we saw with Team Spirit and how they played. They just maximize like crazy. So that didn't really change. I think Primal Beast. I don't know why they keep adding these types of heroes in Dota. Like Dawnbreaker, Marcy, just like these strength heroes that kind of have a stun and have to buy BKB to use their abilities. I think his ulti is really satisfying to use, and obviously, like as usual, they make them into like a laning monster. Like Dawnbreaker, they released her; she was too weak. They buffed her; she became a laning powerhouse. Same for Primal Beast. I think we could be doing a better job. I'm happy it's a non-humanoid though. I did mention that on a tweet. I was very happy that Primal Beast is an actual some kind of monster.
With Han officially closing doors in July, I think it is, or June, let's get some Han heroes ported directly. Chipper,
Puppet
Kraken,
Master, please.
Puppet Master. Like there's like 10 to 12 that are just god tier.
Flux to completely break the game. Let's go.
Oh, not Flux. No.
Yeah. Besides that, I do think in a way the most interesting and impactful change they've had is the shard, because it suddenly allows for a lot of like these other heroes that relied on this shard to be picked up earlier, like whether it's supports, suddenly Vengeful Spirit with this new shard might just become a viable support again, even though she's kind of bad in lane. So I do think that's one of the more impactful changes, and we probably haven't really seen the scope of how big it is because people haven't figured out all the possibilities of things you can do with it. And then I'm just waiting for people to abuse the Harpy Scout and the Dark Troll Summoner to the absolute maximum. It's like, you remember when you could take over siege creeps in Dota with like Chen and Ench? Yeah, it's that on like amped up. It's absolutely insane, this Dark Troll Summoner.
Rally is
that's
something. I had a game the other day where I was playing with somebody who had a Dark Troll and then Brood. And we got like 9 or 10 skeletons for rally, and the Spiderlings were dealing like triple damage on towers. We took a lane minute 15 or something. The tower fell in 5 seconds. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I said playing this game, I just felt dirty almost with that win. Like it was just stupid. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's probably getting changed. I think a lot of people disagree with the rally thing. Like it sounds like you're not a fan, at least.
No, it's hilarious to watch right now since I'm not professionally playing. But if I were, I would find a way to abuse it. That's for sure.
If I can pick your brain just a little bit more, I know this is a really long interview, but one of the things that Shannon and I very much disagree on, that the community is very passionate about, is neutral items. What do you think about them in general as a concept? Just in general, how they work now, what they bring to the game, and how they undeniably contribute to like power creep, right? The game is getting faster and faster over the last few years. You just get a free item, you get more farm, etc. Do you like them? Would you want a different system, or is it good the way they are?
So I think our initial thought is, especially as Dota players, we generally are like against any changes. That's like our first reaction, especially as a community. Say no to haunt trash. But I do think looking back at it, it's a good change. I think it's always fun when they add in a new element to the game that's impactful but not completely harmful. So there is an element of RNG to this, obviously, because you're not going to get the same items, and certain items are way too strong. For example, Philosopher's Stone should just be removed, even though it's like my favorite item. That item in specific is way too powerful, but I think it's overall a good change just because of the scope of how it can add new elements to the game. Because I do think you want to continue building something in the game. You don't want it to stay exactly the same, and this was like a tasteful way of doing it. Shrines, for example, were not really a good way of doing it. They added something to the game, but the ramifications were crazy. And then eventually they removed it, thankfully.
Right.
And let's say we nerfed all.
I was going to say, to be clear, when neutrals came out, I didn't like them either, but they've toned them down a lot since the beginning, so I'm fine with them now. But Synderen is just a boomer, basically.
Right. I'm just a boomer. But okay, final question about this. Let's hypothetically nerf every neutral item by a third. Is that better or worse for the game? It's like you can just to elaborate a little bit, because you can enjoy the system, appreciate what it does for the game, but then it's also a matter of the magnitude of influence, right? Like obviously this is a super loaded question for me. You can tell what I think, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious if you think so. I personally don't think the system inherently is bad, but I think they probably do too much in the game for the fact that you get them for free. That's my opinion. So I would like to see them nerfed. All of them, basically, across the board.
I would be okay if they were slightly tuned. I think it would be fine for the game. I don't think it's 100% necessary. It's not the first thing I would look at. I would look to remove some of the items, like I mentioned. But I would be fine with them tuning them down. I think it would be overall good for the game. Like, I don't think it would be super significant, but it would be a little bit significant.
All right. So with that, let's get on to the long-awaited trivia, where Synderen is on a losing streak of infinite amount of times.
That's just not true.
He also is reusing the same questions because he's not an interesting human being. So let's hope that
you are reusing it every time, and this time I reused one from one time.
Okay, so Synderen,
a long time ago. Stop lying to the audience.
This one here, I've told Synderen in the past. We'll see how much he listens to me.
Oh dear.
Synderen, what was Tal's nickname before it was Fly? He was playing position 1 in Han. I specifically remember it.
Oh.
I can help. I can give you a slight hint. I don't know how much of a hint it is. Do you need it?
I think so.
3 letters. It's okay to admit that you don't know, Synderen, and that you don't listen to me ever.
I'm going to go with Tal.
Nope. It was Bot.
I don't think you've ever told me.
I'm 100% sure. So
you actually have.
What's the story behind Bot?
It was very simple, actually. I got a back then you had to pay for accounts, and I got this one for free from Nova, aka Yasha, my first teammate. He just gave me the account, and I just played on it, and that was my name.
Before that,
sharing.
Nice.
It's okay. I can't get banned anymore. The game is dead.
That's true.
That's how that came to be. And the funny thing is, he also was the guy that kind of made me switch into Fly, because I used to change my nicknames all the time. I didn't have a stable one. Before that, I was something silly like Schweppes or something. I don't even know. I don't know
Ooh.
why.
And Simba later,
I would
actually.
have got you a
Yeah,
good sponsorship, but a conflict of interest when you joined EG, I guess.
I guess so. But basically, Nova, this guy, I told him one of the nicknames I used to use was Fly, and he was like, "Oh, I really like this one. You should switch to it." And he gave me he just gave me a new account, like bought it for me. And then I was like, "Okay, I like it more than Bot. Bot was never my name to begin with, so let's go with this one."
All right,
All
excellent.
right.
Fly, how many TIs has Cinderin played at?
I didn't know I'm getting asked these questions.
Oh, yes, you're getting trivia as well. Yes, that's part of it.
5?
4.
Oh, that's generous.
Yeah,
that was
very
generous.
close.
Oh,
So
it was 4 or 5.
I appreciate that, though.
TI 1,
guessing
2,
higher is
3,
good.
and 6.
6 was with Era, right? And Kezu?
Yes, that was escape.
Yeah.
You guys escaped the standings real quick on that one.
Thank you, Shannon. You're a good friend.
Cinderin, what is one fruit Fly cannot live without?
Do I get multiple choice on this one? This sounds like a multiple choice.
I don't even know the
question.
answer to this one. So this,
I didn't give him the answer.
Well, he's a gym guy, so banana, because it's really good energy.
that's probably true.
Close. It's close.
No.
It's actually I'm too much of a hipster now, and it's avocado.
Oh, all right.
Oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Okay. Avocado.
Yeah, I'm one of those. Sorry, guys.
It's a superfood.
It is.
Avocado toast is actually just way too delicious, regardless of everything.
Avocado is good.
All right, Fly, what special day is also Cinderin's birthday? So it's a holiday when we say special day.
You can give him multiple choice if that helps at all.
Well, you can give him multiple choice. It's your birthday.
Hit me up.
I think you should do it so that we include, very specific American days and everything.
All right. Is it July 4th, the Independence Day of America? Is it Easter? Is it Christmas Eve? Is it New Year's?
I'll go with 4th of July.
That would have been amazing, but no. It is, in fact, Christmas Eve. Poor young
That was not
Cinderin.
even my second choice. I was going to go with New Year's.
All right, last ones for each of you. Cinderin, what is Fly's favorite all-time movie trilogy?
Okay.
I'm sure Cinderin knows about 2 trilogies, so pick from the 2 that you know, Cinderin.
Is something a trilogy if it has more than 3 eventually?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think Fly would really enjoy Lord of the Rings, actually. I'll pick that.
Correct.
Okay.
Nice.
Well done.
I mean, that's everybody's
Good
favorite
choice.
trilogy, to be fair, and it's the one that Cinderin... Was your other one, Cinderin, going to be Matrix? Is that why you asked it more than 3?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was thinking about that one too.
Yeah, because those are the only 2 trilogies you know about.
But is Matrix a trilogy?
No, not anymore.
And
Right,
there would never be my choice. Only the first movie was worth.
Yeah, the
watching.
rest are absolute garbage. All right,
Damn,
last
you and Shannon
one.
could talk about that for days. Huh?
Fly, this is a question that we've reused on every episode. What is Cinderin's dog's name?
I have no idea.
Okay,
The funny thing is, I even
him-
listened to it before. I don't remember.
Give him some.
You give him something. Give him multiple choice.
All right,
You're
so
good at
it's
this one.
named after a food. Is it but it's the Danish word for that food. Is it
Okay.
potato, onion, tomato, or carrot? I'll give you a hint because I think you know this dog breed. It's a Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever. Do you know those?
Okay.
How's that a hint?
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a hint, but the thing is, I don't know what the Danish equivalents are. But okay, we'll
No,
just go
just
with
the English word is good enough, of course.
tomato.
That's incorrect.
Oh no.
It is onion.
Onion.
Oh no.
That's right.
I even
Danish
heard this,
name.
man. Oh my goodness. Disaster. Well, 0 for 3. Sin at least gets 1, so
Cinder, you finally win. Congratulations.
You say finally, Shannon. I win every time.
That's a
okay.
lie.
That's not true. I win sometimes.
Okay. Well, that
If you need
brings.
movie discussions, just hit me up. I love talking about those.
That's true.
I'm
Cinderin is not
impressed.
the
Tal
person
said
to
he
talk
had
to.
heard of my dog before. I think that's the first guest that even had heard of the name. So that's a.
Yes,
Did I mishear that?
An episode before.
That's nice.
I don't know.
There's like a 30% chance we say the word onion in each of our episodes anyway, so it's bound to happen.
Okay.
Fly, appreciate you coming on. That was an awesome fucking episode. We appreciate
episode,
it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that
Thanks
you
so
would
much.
like to say to all your fans, or just anything in general to close us out?
Just first of all, thank you guys for having me on. It was fun. I think I said a lot of things I haven't really talked about before, so hopefully people find it interesting and have more of a deep thinking when they listen to it, not just go to the first comment and be like, haha. I hope you guys give it more thought. And I just want to thank the people who have been positive and helpful during my journey. To the fans out there that support me, just know that your voices matter and your support matters a lot to me. It really does help you keep going. Our world is filled with a lot of negativity, but there's also a lot of positivity. So hopefully we can all strive towards that as a community, and on a personal growth level, we can all strive towards that. So thank you guys out there, and thanks to the people who have been supporting me also personally. Ebony, my family, they're there for me. So yeah, that's it.
All right, awesome. Well said. Thanks again for coming on. Until next time, Cinder, there's going to be an outro, so don't ruin it, okay? Goodbye, everybody. Until next week. We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah.